Welcome back, friends. If you haven't been here before, I am Susan Clifton, and I'm a mixed media artist that lives in South Florida. Today we're going to do a collage, a small collage around an 8x10 on a wood panel board, and it's going to be on the word pause. We all have times in our life when we're too busy, too stressed, too everything, and we get a little bit overwhelmed. So we have to remember to pause and to take a deep breath. So that's what this artwork is all about. We're going to use some jelly prints that I've been making over the last couple of months and some fabric mosaic. So let's get to it. Here's the plan. So this is obviously the layout. And the words in here, let's see if I can find the beginning. Okay. It's take a deep breath. When in doubt, pause. When tired, pause. When stressed, pause. Slow down, pause, breathe, relax. So I had a really stressful year last year, and I saw a piece of jewelry that had this symbol on it. And I got it for myself to wear every single day during that trying time so that I could remind myself to take a breath, to pause, breathe, so that I can get what I had to do done. So we all have, times like that when we have to remind ourselves to breathe sometimes, because life can be really challenging. I had this idea like a year ago, and I really wanted to do it, and it's just taken me this long to get around to it. And because I am a computer person and I'm on the internet so much and also on YouTube so much, and we've got a pause button and we've got a play button and we have a stop button. So I'm going to do a series of 3. And this will be the first one because this one is the nearest and dearest to my heart because it got me going all last year. It kept me going. So I printed this out on fabric. As you can see, this is paper-backed fabric. I will link below. And I can peel this off. So now I have some nice fabric to work with. And that is going to go in this black area. This is going to be, everything that's white on this sheet is going to be jelly papers. So we will see what that's going to be. I haven't even decided yet. And then the pause is going to get added last. After the entire thing is finished and sealed, I am going to do a Cricut vinyl over here, paint the black, carefully take that off so it doesn't rip the jelly papers, and then seal it all again. So that's the plan anyway. And today I'm going to start with the fabric mosaic part and getting this black thing, this black area here inside the circle, the pause button, and getting that done today. So I use this fabric wheel to cut my fabric. And how that works, I got this at Joann's Fabrics. You just roll over your fabric and you get a nice cut. And of course I need a new blade, so I'm not getting a nice cut. But I can hear where it's dull. It's like skipping a spot. I might go change my blade. But anyway, when I go fast, it does a pretty good job. And I cut these little triangles, and then I adhere them to the board. People always ask me, well, you can't really read it, but yes and no. You can read sometimes enough of it, and then your mind fills in the blank, I want to inspire people to think for themselves as well, so that they can also come up with their own affirmations whenever they need, because there are going to be different times in your life when you're going to have trying times yourself. I am definitely going to go get a new blade, and I'll be right back. Nice and smooth. Okay, that's what we want. I always keep like a little rag nearby in my gel medium. Okay, so I'm sorry I was not recording. Thought I was. All right, so I got started. I changed out my blades, so now I'm getting really nice smooth cuts. I'm just applying all over the black area, whatever I want to be black. And the fabric is really, really easy to work with because it is flexible. And because my background is black, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have them butting up against each other perfectly. You still get the nice effect. And occasionally I might pull out some words in a straight line so that people can read a little bit. Okay, I'm going to speed up from here, and I think you'll get the idea. I just want to mention here that because this is fabric, you could sort of bend it around the circle, which is really helpful when you're working with curved areas. You cannot do that with paper. I also find the fabric a lot easier to work with in general. Just I can work faster than I can with paper. But I do love the Gelli papers. Okay, so it's time to pull out some words before I get too far. So I kind of like take a deep breath. So I'm going to cut some of that out. The nice thing about working with wood is you could go in with your blade and you can trim it. So there we go. Okay, so I created this tissue paper, or actually tracing paper template, so that I could plan my jelly papers around this circle. And I'm going to use some of my graphite paper to trace onto the jelly print paper, so that I know where to cut my little arcs, if that makes any sense. So I'm just tracing around where my circle is, and also indicating where the edge of the board is, so I know how to position my papers. So I hated cutting up that paper, but it actually really added a nice touch to this piece, so I'm happy it's there. So I'm doing a voiceover over a sped up because this video is just getting too long. So hopefully you aren't bored by now. But this is the fun part where we add color. And the mistake I made here was cutting out that complete total edge. I should have kept one of the don't make my mistake. At least leave some edge so that you could hang over and you could trim it off later. The most important part is the arc, to get that arc that goes around the circle. A lot of times when you're multitasking, you're shooting video and you're creating artwork, you tend to not think. Trust me, it happens. Anyway, that section right there with the I'm going to put in the middle of the pause button, those two little rectangles. But I think that is a perfect corner, so I'm going to paste that down. So as I've mentioned in other videos, I always not only put gel medium on the paper, but also on the board. And I do that with the fabric as well, I'm sure you noticed. In the fabric, it really seals that fabric to the board. But the same thing with the paper. And then I even lay more on top in a lot of cases. But sometimes I wait until I'm a little further along. So I'm giving a little bit of a trim where the arc was. So this pause artwork is going to be mostly shades of teal, and with a little bit of warm color in there as well. So, and those sections right there are going to be cut out of that, and I am going to use my template again because I want to get them precise. Okay, so I've cut out both of these pieces. And we're going to glue those down because we know that that for sure is going right there. And sometimes you have to do a little bit of a trim. Okay, so now I'm just going to pick out the rest of my papers and where they go, and then just keep moving along. I'm going to fill out that whole area around the circle and all the way to the top because we're going to overlay the word pause. And I've planned it out so that there's an area at the top that'll make it easy to read pause, because if you put it over a super busy area, it might be difficult to read. So I'm going to continue to use my template as I move around the circle, along with my graphite paper, to transfer that curved line. So I don't know how I would have done this without without the graphite paper, because you cannot eyeball this. This has got to be, you know, a nice curvy line. You know, it's really got to go around that circle, and when you don't get it precise, then it just looks all off. I was originally thinking that I would cut a lot of little pieces all the way around, and I just kept thinking what a mess that would look like. So I took the time to make a template and then to use the graphite paper to help me control that line as it goes around. Because I'm also, it's like drawing with a X-Acto knife. Sometimes I'm good at that and other times I'm not. Anyway, I have some like rough lines, as you could see, that are kind of indicating where I think I might want a change of paper. This is all just sort of rough plan, and then as I go along I kind of change my mind a little bit. Of course. So now I'm going into another section. And as I do each section, I get a little bit more informed about how I should do this. So as you see more papers coming in, you'll see that I'm using a lot of teal, and then I have the lime greens that also have a little bit of teal. So I've tried to find papers that sort of go well with each other, either through pattern or through, you know, a color story. So this time I decide to tape it down to really control the position a little bit better when I'm tracing. Because if it shifts just the slightest little bit, then it doesn't work. So I'm working on another corner now, and I'm first cutting out my curve. This is, I think, the lower left corner. So it's not matching perfectly, which is getting me very frustrated. Here we go. And always make sure, now there's a little bit of an edge there that in order to make the arc perfect, I lost a little bit of the corner. So, but I have a solution for that. So I start to decide to overlay another color. So then I start working on the upper area. And these beautiful color greens that came out from, I was mixing colors on the plate, and I just love some of those really bright greens. And some of these textures are just like grunge, really. And others are actual stencils, but you just see a little tiny bit of the stencil. The area where the paws, the little dashes or whatever you want to call them, the little up and down rectangles, those were from my stencil that I did on the Cricut. And I just love the way they add to the paper. So the top area is a big teal piece that I'm off camera. Sorry about that. So I'm adding smaller pieces just to make sure that I have my background completely covered. And I'm just adding them where I think it, adds to the design of the background. And that little piece that you can see off to the left was to sort of bring in some of those peachy, orangey colors onto the piece in another, and it's a little bit metallic as well. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. And this top piece, I tried to keep it simple so that you could read the word pause, which will be very soon. So now I have to trim up all the edges, and now we can move on to the word pause. So I cut this on a Cricut. So I do that to make it easier to letter the top of the board. If I had to hand letter this, it would have taken hours probably, and it still would never have been very, perfect. So right now what I'm doing is I'm lining it up and making sure that it's straight and that it's centered. So I've already measured in advance and know how far it needs to be from each edge, and I'm using the T-square to make sure it's straight. And I'm going to use a piece of tape in the corner to nick a little piece on both sides so I know where to lay it down once I remove the transfer tape. Because these are hard to position and they're sticky, and you don't want to get it in the wrong place and then you end up having to redo it. So I'm just going to make a little mark and have a piece of paper on both sides showing me where the corners need to lay down, if that makes any sense, I hope. Okay, so now I am removing the backing on the smart vinyl that I'm using. Like I said, I have a Cricut Joy, so I'm able to use smart vinyl, which means that I don't have to use a mat. And I find that this backing on the smart vinyl is a lot easier to remove than some of the other vinyls. So if you don't have a Cricut Joy, you might want to get one. Okay, so now I'm going to, and of course I'm off camera. Geez, what was I thinking? You'll see it in a second, but anyway, I've used those little corners to mount it correctly, and now I have to remove my transfer tape. And I didn't leave myself any overhang so that I could make it easy to remove and not take the vinyl off, but I do eventually get it with my X-Acto. And so I sort of try to burnish it down while I'm pulling, and I make it like taut against. I see how I'm pulling. I don't just like pull up because it's just going to lift the vinyl up. So now I'm going to make sure that there's like a little bump in one area by the U, and I will make sure that that's burnished down. And I am sealing this with some gel medium so that the paint doesn't seep underneath the vinyl. So now I just have to wait for the gel medium to dry, just a couple of minutes, dries pretty quickly, and I'm going to be using some black paint, not too thick, but I might need to do at least 2 coats. So I'm using a carbon black, and it's the golden fluid paints, so it's not very thick. And I'm using a small brush, and I'm going to probably do this at least 2 very light coats. Okay, so here's the part where we have to be really careful, and that's lifting the vinyl without peeling off any of the paper. or the paint separating from the paper. So you'll see I do have that happen in like 2 tiny little places. But because it's paint, I'm able to touch it up. So it's not such a big deal. I had one tiny little spot right there by the U. And I'm being really careful to go from both sides because this is a delicate situation here. And most of it looks good. Now when I take I think when I lift this off, no, maybe it wasn't there. It was the A because I had to really pick at it, and again, I'm off camera, so sorry. Right there in the corner, I have a little bit of a problem. But a tiny little brush and some teal paint, and we've got it fixed. So let's go do that. Okay, so I have this really tiny brush. I don't know, can you see how tiny that is? Anyway, it's very, very fine. We're going to take a little bit of the teal. I'm not overloading my brush. We're just going to dab in there a little bit. And I don't even care, like I'm being careful not to get into the black area, but if I do, it's not a big deal because I have black paint as well. And we're just touching up that little area by the U and a couple of other little white spots that that were bothering me. So now I'm doing the black paint. And I guess the camera angle's not so great. And it looks perfect now. So all I have to do now is seal the whole thing again. I'll probably put some kind of a glossy coating over it. I'm not really sure yet, but we are done. And so thank you for watching today, and I hope you enjoy this type of video. This is more my style of artwork. This is what, I haven't done this large yet, but this is similar to the type of concept that I do in my large artwork. So I hope you'll come again soon, and don't forget, create, inspire, and share. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.